Hello and welcome to another episode of The Card Show. If you're new here, welcome. Enjoy the ride. And for everyone that listens weekly, we appreciate it as always. Welcome. Welcome back, should we say. Another episode, another week in. We have a crazy one this week because there are lots of news in the hobby. There's obviously a lot of hype around National, which is obviously on the corner now. A few people have headed over there or making their way there as this podcast goes out. So let's get into the stuff that's new in the hobby. Let's get into the usual unbiased discussions I bring, as I am no one's puppet. We'll start with the big repack news from Mr. Sports Card Investor Jeff Wilson. They obviously his companies, I'm going to say, presume Sports Card Investor team and the Cards HQ sort of team and different businesses, different entities. It'd be interesting to see if he ties that in with market movers, because obviously if someone has an app that's solely based on bringing income in for people knowing comps, all of a sudden you're gonna have a lot of stuff in these repacks that won't really have a comps, because what you're gonna do, compare the price that the repack was bought for and make sure everyone and have it logistic, recorded, because the person who pulls it must tell you that they've pulled it out of that pack, right? So then you then go, okay, well, we can, if they say they pulled out of the pack, we can then say it was bought for this price and this repack price. It would be a difficult one to do. So obviously you're not going to get comps on a repack thing. So that's kind of interesting that they've gone down that route. But we know repacks have been a big thing for a while. This sort of fizzled out a little bit. Or maybe, again, let's say fizzled out. I think similar with breakers, where we had a lot of breakers, a lot of people wanted breakers, and then sort of the week perish. And the same with repacks. Everyone started to jump on repacks because they thought they were going to make a lot of money. And then we found out there's only a few that could do it, and a little bit more fizzled out. So yeah, they teamed up to do repacks with PSA. PSA is kind of the backbone of this podcast, really, because they start off with this news that they're doing into repacks. Obviously, every card is a PSA graded card. They're involved in what cards are going to watch pack and all that stuff, and they're doing a lot of stuff and putting a lot of their reputation online with these repacks, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be unhappy with what they get, for sure. So yeah, it's kind of a weird one. The sort of market side, we see now a lot more PSA 10s, because then they'll offer you the price, right? And then they'll put these in the repacks. This seems to be a thing now with the PSA Vault, where they'll just buy it off you or offer you a price. Or will there be a bit of underhanded plays where they'll grade at PSA 9, for instance, offer you a price, you'll go, oh yeah, do you know what, I'm making money, I'll sell it at that price. And then all of a sudden that card becomes a PSA 10. I'm not saying it will happen, I'm saying it could happen, right? It would be easier to monitor on the bigger cards, the 5s, 10s, whatever, if they're numbered. Again, even if it's the 225 who's numbered, but I can't see them. Maybe we'll chuck in a 225 in a repack to make people think they've got something, but you get the gist, right? If I've got a 5 flawless, for instance, and it comes back an 8, thicker stock card, doesn't always grade well anyway, comes back an 8, and they say, we'll offer you this much, and I go, oh, yeah, fine. It'd be interesting to see then if it does get a cheeky little crack and regrade at PSA, and all of a sudden it's in a repack, because it wouldn't be difficult for me to find out, but it'd be hard for me to follow, right? Am I then going to sell it to them as an 8 and hunt, like always be on a lookout for that card? It'd have to see it on my timeline that someone pulled it in a repack and like, hey, whoa, and then like, was it 3 or 5 mine? And go back. Sometimes with the flawless, I probably more. I would probably find out, if it was a prism, for instance, if it was like a 10 prism or just 25, or maybe, you probably wouldn't find out as much. There wouldn't be as much like news that someone pulled a 15 of 25 in a repack. But yeah, it's interesting. Again, will they just do it outright and just do a lot more PSA 10s just because they can fit them into these packs and make it look good. We'll see. We will see. Definitely a market domination from the collectors holding group. I think that's what they're called. And we'll talk a bit on that shortly with other news. But it's very interesting that this it's given a sort of, I don't say legitimacy, but it's definitely given a bigger authority. I have PSA that the grading company, not so much Jeff Wilson his side of things, because he's very much a love or hate sort of guy, very much a Marmite. So people love him, people hate him. But having PSA have so much control of these repacks, right? They have control of the cards that go in there, what cards go in each pack, and that sort of stuff. So it's interesting that they've gone into this market. Again, maybe it was natural from seeing they've gone from sort of straight grade from eBay and the vaults and sell on eBay with them and have them buy cards from you or offer money on cards for straight direct from you. So yeah, very interesting that this is the next route they've gone down. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think this is some more tomfoolery in the hobby? Do you think it's good for the hobby? Yeah, it's going to be not going to happen. But let's be honest, probably one of the best companies in place to buy repacks and make them very fair for people. Because even if they were to lose out a few dollars on a packs, they sort of have that in the bank. If that makes sense, like they could lose money in the bank because it wouldn't affect them too much. I think the grading, let's face it, the good grading millions of cards, they're making so much money that all of a sudden if they were to do a fair repack where they do a couple here, a couple there, 100 here, 100 there, like it doesn't make that much of a difference to them as a company because they're not going to do 100,000 repacks. They're going to do, well, I don't think they will do 100,000 repacks. I think they'll do the limited drops of 20 or so of each one category. Basketball, maybe more than 20 basketball, baseball, they'll break it down. They'll do TCG. It'll be the usuals, ice hockey, baseball, basketball, NFL, possibly soccer. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'd be interesting if they filter stuff from Jeff Wilson's shop, if that's one of the things they're going to do. So him and his team are buying at shows. Like I said, all of a sudden, a lot of these cards get PSA 10s and straight to repacks. But it'd be interesting the volume they do want to do. They want to keep like a scarcity kind of thing. They want people to try and get on there first and get their packs because they want to keep numbers down, right? You can't do 50,000 packs of baseball, 50,000 packs of NFL, and then be like, oh, here's a chance of hitting, the 1 of 1, for instance, because what's the point in that, right? I don't want a 1 in 51 odds, do I? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if to share that information. I probably should have looked into it a little bit more. I think I was a bit more shocked by the news that that's the way PSA are going and the sort of domination. They're sort of trying to take over everything, right? They're on everything now. There's nothing you can't do. They even got the grading prep kits out now in by all purpose intended, whatever the word is there, all purpose intended, whatever. By all means necessary. I don't think that fits in, but you get my drift. It seems like it's a decent little kit. For the price, it seems okay. It is what it is. But with PSA, with collectors holding and that sort of thing, domination leads to sort of the bigger news in some respects. That I'm calling him SGC Pete. He's been sort of the face of SGC for a couple of years on their massive sort of rise. SGC have been really good up until the last few months, I'd say. Maybe turn of the year, I don't know. Yeah, because of their turnaround times, people like the tucks that they put them in. And they're quite transparent. He was good at getting in front of the camera and saying what they've been doing bad and saying what they've been doing good and what's next. He's resigned. He's stepped down. I think it's effective immediately due to sort of conflict of not quite interest, but conflict of how the business is going. And it seems to be, reading through the post, that PSA are kind of taking a lot of SGC staff for PSA to help out PSA. Obviously, PSA, I think he does like 3 or 4x what SGC does a month. To help with the sort of influx of cards into PSA, and they're trying to keep SGC like strictly vintage. We've seen SGC turnarounds, just go to the mud, basically like PSA has. And yeah, it's been a shame. But again, this is domination, right? You have someone that's coming up doing well, you buy them, and then you can make them play second fiddle. They could have. I don't want to say they could have been number one because the market will decide that, but I think they had a massive push number one because of the turnaround time. So all of a sudden, if you're an investor and you want to quick flip stuff, you know that you can send it SGC, you can come back a 9.5 or a 10 in, was it 5 days? 10, no, like that's how quick it is. Whereas with PSA, if you're not turnaround, you're paying 10 times as much, with a potential upcharge as well. Whereas SGC was, here's the set fee, it's done in this days. I think even a 2-week turnaround was like $12 or $15 or something like that. Or 10 business days. So we know how important it is to be first on the market. So that they had a big, like the money you would have lost, compared to a PSA 10. You probably would have, wouldn't have been as bad because of the turnaround time, right? All of a sudden, if it comes to more of a liquid card, like a PSA, it's like a Prism Silver 10, Prism Silver PSA 10, as opposed to like an O5, then there probably will be a bit of a big difference between someone wanting a PSA 10 to 5 of something as opposed to an SGC to 5. But again, a Prism Silver is something that's very liquid card. That's a short print, but not super short print. The money you'd make being one of the first in markets as a SGC 10, SGC now 5, compared to what you'll get waiting a bit longer for a PSA 10. Honestly, you probably would have been better on a lot of cases, not all of them. A lot of cases doing SGC. Sometimes PSA just wins because there's that sort of narrative for PSA, right? People will go for that. But yeah, it's been, the correct turnaround times are crazy. So yeah, it's kind of a shame that PSA, I mean, it does make me think that, there was obviously talks of Fanatics sort of getting into the grading company or buying a company. Like, will they then decide now to jump in that end of it? We know that Tops has changed now to Fanatics, basically. Was it Fanatics 1? I think the stuff's called now. So it'd be interesting if products change. Will it be Fanatics Chrome, Fanatics Bowman, Fanatics First, all sort of stuff? But yeah, I mean, from a strategic point of view, you've got to look and say, do they make more sense to team up with PSA and Collectors Holding? And we know they've got the PSA submission at the store in London, so it kind of looks like they've got a good relationship as it is. Or do you fully get in there and but maybe buy? I think CGC would be a good one. They have that quite a long-standing history in the hobby, especially on the TCG side. Obviously, they have they acquired JSA, the Jane Spence Authentication Company, which is always good to have. They have a base over here. I'm sure Sports Cards UK, Dan told me they have some sort of grading facility here, but I think it's like comics only, or like kind of comics magazines only, not cards. And they've been, I think they've been at the Scotland Card Show as well, CGC. So it kind of would make sense in that respect. It's an up and coming in the sports sort of side of grading, nice slabs, decent turnaround times, decent price. I think I'd probably say they're probably the third best at the moment grading company. And I think the numbers say that as well. So yeah, that would make sense. But we shall see. But I think I'd be interested to see where Pete goes. Does he get a job elsewhere? Could he? Yeah, like I hope he doesn't go to start his own company. Maybe he could go to CGC and help out there. I don't know. We know we've got AGS grading in the UK now, so not them saying he'd fly to UK and live over here apparently, but maybe that's one of them companies that could sort of you could go to and he could help elevate the AGS company and the brand and push out that more. I mean, just well in its own right, but having someone like Pete with his, he's familiar face in a hobby, it could definitely help your company. But yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. Any thoughts? Do you think this is right from the collectors holding group, sort of prioritizing PSA this way and doing what they're doing to SGC? Should they have just left it alone and actually improved PSA structurally instead of plugging gaps from one company to another and sort of prioritizing one? Who knows? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know. I was intrigued. And last but not least, probably one of the biggest ones, obviously talks about people going to national, get on the way to national. I've always said on the like people, it's the hype thing with the national. Really is. If you're from the UK and you're the money to go there, fly, stay, and the money on net for tickets, etc., is ridiculous. It's not worth it from a investor point of view. If you're a collector and you've got the money to spend, go do it. It's your money at the end of the day. As an investor, the money's to go there as lot, which as a collector sort of thing. If you're a flipper, it's obviously a lot easier to make money. Like the money you'd spend, you could definitely put into cards and make a lot more money back than you'd go. Do you make going there? If that makes sense. So it's one of them. I just always, I don't know, I just think the hype is ridiculous. Especially because I always felt like there was a little bit of lack of respect. You know what I mean? This is just the longest standing show, the biggest show, and there's been so many issues with it over the years. On the plus side, I think they noticed it, and the worst thing is, it was competition that made them notice this. Let's be honest. Like since Fanatics Fest came along, and it was in like a nice, clean. It was in New York, a massive. The Javits, a nice, clean center. I do believe that they actually had issues with Wi-Fi this time around on one of the days, I believe, because there's like so many people there. But it was like an upgrade, like a more of a respect for people in the hobby, because it was such a nice place in a brilliant location in New York. So yeah, whereas obviously National moved, we had a lot of people complaining about it being Atlantic City and the sort of safety around that sort of stuff. They've kept it in Chicago, which a lot of people seem to like, because it's all sort of built, a lot of hotels built onto this complex. So it was a lot easy safety wise. The other issues, no Wi-Fi scenario, the bad aircon, have all seemed to have a massive upgrade. That was the news from the National that the ACs had a massive upgrade and the Wi-Fi had a massive upgrade. So that's two massive things. I know they're looking to sort of getting people in quicker and easier. And I do believe, I know they had toilets outside as well last year to help that sort of side of thing, because obviously when you got X amount of 1,000 people and in a place like that, you're not going to have 1,000 toilets, right? So they had some more. I think they're outside last time in the car park. I believe they're there again. They have done some merch all this time to sort of help, but I don't know. I didn't think it was the best. But I'm kind of glad they kind of, I don't say putting a bit of respect on the name, but it does feel like they just sort of rested on the laurels, right? It got big or bigger, and they just sort of said, "This is the National. This is what we do," and people just endure this stuff. It would took something, I don't say bigger and better to come along, but it took them to come along that was going to match and surpass them. For them to go, hey, we need to look into this stuff now. So they brought the committee on, didn't they? They have sort of newer people as well. I think obviously Ryan Johnson, his name, Collector 2. Sort of people to sort of say, hey, this is what we sort of need now to make sure we stay relevant and not left behind. I think the location was a big one. I know, is it next year it moves? I know it does move, but I believe it's moving to like a just as good a place. Whereas, say with Atlantic City was a place where people had a lot of issues safety wise. People there with spending millions of dollars worth of cards and having to walk down sort of streets that are considered a bit more dangerous to get back to a hotel. But yeah, it's good that they're invested in this sort of stuff. It would be interesting if Chicago does become the home of the national. I'm never a big fan of that sort of stuff personally. Like, I get it with shows in sort of UK or shows like the Dallas may stay at the same sort of place. But when you're called the national, I feel like you should have a bit of movement around, right? Like I've always said, if we were to do something over here, if it's called the European or the International, for instance, um, it'd be cool for it to move around, right? It'd be cool if it was called European. It'd be cool for it to move around Europe. Have it in these great places like Berlin, have it in Stockholm, London for ease. Like the X, I think XI, would be great because obviously you can fly in there. There's loads of hotels around there, which is going to be interesting with obviously London culture going there. But yeah, these sort of things like having it go around is just it just gives those people in the communities in those areas easy to go to it, and hopefully they get hooked and like I've got to go next year, wherever it may be. Oh, it's Amsterdam, cool, and turns a great event. I don't think we could do the length that the national does, but I don't think we could do like a. Could we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? I think it was a bank holiday Monday. We could. But yeah, I don't know if we have like the infrastructure of enough people doing cards full time to take them Friday and Monday off work, like because they're not doing full time. So a lot of people would have to. Whereas people that do it full time, would they do the 4 days? I don't know. Maybe. We've got more shops popping up, so the shops could do it. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Interesting. I think an international would be great. A lot harder, obviously. Try and plan. I kind of, in a weird way, kind of don't. As I love the idea, but I don't think we need it as much because you have these shows coming up in like obviously the ASC. I always get it on ASCC or ACSS, whatever it's called. Obviously got things in the Bangkok car show coming up soon, or Thailand car show coming up soon. Like we have so many big-ish shows popping up in these countries, where it's kind of like, would an international be as big if we were to do one there? Like if we were to do an international in Australia, and you're hoping this is like national level, that sort of thing, or like a Fanatics Fest kind of style. Would people fly over to Australia for it in the droves because of how long the flight is for a lot of the world? That makes sense. Like I know you still got New Zealand, Australia sort of collectors and fans in. It's not horrendous for sort of like Cambodia, Thailand area. It's not like horrendous flights, but yeah, is there the infrastructure there for the people to want to go to that to make it as big? Like obviously for us in England, it's pretty much a day flight, right? It's to Australia. I don't know if we can do a direct jet still. I don't actually know. I still think it's stopovers, but maybe you can do it direct if you're rich enough. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see a European would be good. And maybe we could break it up down that way. Do it continental wise, right? The Americas and Europeans, and do like the ASCC, or it's called. It could be like the Asia, the Oceania one. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. I don't know. I think Fantastic Success will probably got more of a pull to it that way because of the sports involved in, so they know they can get like stars from each sort of location, right, to sort of pop up. Next time you have like WWE over in Australia or in England, you can always have some stars pop in if you time it all well. But yeah, just my thoughts on that. Let me know if you're heading over to National this year. This is your first one. It's your last one. If you feel like National is the show to go to, if you think I'm wrong, that's fine. Like I've said, if it's like a personal thing, if you want to go, I think it's great. But I think the hype for it, especially for a lot of people, are sort of in the hobby just to like buy and sell. It's kind of crazy the amount of money you spend going over there. Like I said, it's usually what You're going to book 7, 10, maybe 14 days, flights, accommodation, food, tickets to the show, cards when you're there. I don't know. Just think you could be at home, potentially buying these cards on eBay for, and save a lot of money. Or you go to your local show and find potentially, I'll say better cards, but better investment period cards that you could get. I will say Nationals seems to be getting better because it has opened up more tables for newer people to get in. Because obviously we're stuck with the older guard, so you're getting a lot more of the vintage baseball and that sort of stuff. But times are changing, so maybe in a year or two, I will change my tune and be like, oh, you have to go now because it's more modern, and more this, that, the other, and the money that you go spend there. Like Fanatics Fest seems to be on that cusp where I go, hey, look, going to New York isn't as costly as it is going to Chicago. It's a shorter flight from Manchester, England, where I'm from. Yes, accommodation is probably going to be more expensive. The good side is you don't have to stay immediately close to it. Just because it's easy to get around, it's pretty safe in New York because of how touristy it is. Like I was there, I said it long ago, but it's been a year now. And yeah, there's police everywhere. Like you felt secure. I never felt in danger anywhere. I never felt like I was any sort of threat coming. Well, not to say it's the safest place I've been to in the world, but I felt safe. And I suppose it's one of them iconic places in New York. Right, you can do so much when you're there. And I think that the stuff you can make money on, I've already talked about it on another podcast. The Travis Scott exclusive stuff. I think that was the most lucrative of the products they did. I think there's some other ones it's not as lucrative, and then obviously even like the merch they do, you get a free like gift bag for VIPs, and that fetches in some money. Like not amazing, but yeah, it still fetches in money. I think it said Dave Adams were buying out the boxes for $3. Like you're buying them for $5, and they were paying close to like $1,400, $1,300 for it. It's over $1,000. So yeah, it's just easy to sort of recruit money that way, and it just sort of softens the blow. So I think it's all before, it could pay for your flights, it could pay for your accommodation. All of a sudden, if you're only paying for your flights to New York, because then when you recruit back from the VIP stuff, definitely makes it like, it's not bad. I got a trip to New York, and yes, I spent money on cards, but that will sell them and hopefully recruit more of that money back, right? So yeah, it definitely has that cusp. Like this is probably something I should be at every year now, as opposed to the national. But hey, like I said, maybe I will change that story, that stance next year. But that is it for another episode of The Card Show. Another, let's say short but sweet, but hopefully informative. I probably will get some guests on after national for their perspectives. Do you want to catch up with JJJ, Big Joe, JMS, now of that cards? Because obviously it was a very interesting story going with him, now going full time. He's going to the national as well. We'll get Dan on soon. I feel like Dan's been sort of moving his social media sort of stuff, so it'll be interesting to get his side of things. Obviously, he's gone off Instagram a lot less, I'd say, and even YouTube a lot less, and he's definitely pushing hard on TikTok. I definitely catch up with Third Down lads because they've had a shop successfully going now for going to a year, and how they've been fighting it, the growth of the team as well. Jim, obviously, I know people are waiting to get Jim back on, so that'd be cool to get him on. Not only for carry on his story and the grading prep that people want to know about, but obviously his national and his sort of Germany travels. But yeah, there's a lot of people want to get on. Timing is the key there, right? So hopefully get all sorted soon. But I appreciate everyone for listening and staying tuned and plugging in. Make sure you are subscribed. If you're not, if you're listening on just Apple or Spotify, make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe, hit notification bell. You'll find not only these videos from the pods, but also I do data dives every week, looking into the market. Sometimes I sort of switch up a little bit where it's not just fully market data of what's going on. We look at the cards that have had a big increase, cards that had a decrease, and then cards that have been selling. And most look at cards in the hobby at the moment, which obviously usually base. And it goes to show that it's obviously sometimes you can make money in base cards, which is interesting. And yeah, sometimes we actually look at individual players that you can sort of tend to have a good time to buy. Looking at historical data, knowing that we know that you have sort of hype cycles, so we know sometimes they're down at this time of year because people are now focused on baseball or whatever it may be. And they're the sort of the NFL hype starting to begin now because of the national and pre-season going to August sort of thing, so and September. So yeah, we do that sort of stuff as well. So if you like that sort of stuff, it's over there. Card show vlogs should come back soon. Again, they should have been back for Scotland, but due to me being a fool, I had a little incident. They weren't. But was back fighting fit. But yeah, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Don't feel 100%. But yes, appreciate you guys as always. Make sure you are subscribed. It means everything to me. So I appreciate you. If everyone does, I'm going to do a subscriber gift. I don't know. I will do something. Maybe just like £100. Because I only found out the other day. This is kind of bad. I found the other day I can see a list of the subscribers if you like allow. I think you can not allow the person you subscribe to, wherever it may be, you don't subscribe to them. Like if you can hide your subscription, that makes sense because obviously it's not paid. So yeah, there's a list. So I might do something like that. That'd be kind of cool just to give back to you guys because it's appreciated. But yeah, take care and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.